All right. So hello there to everyone joining. If you're watching this after we've already been live, you can move ahead to the 10-minute mark. And at the 10-minute mark, we'll formally, officially get started with the guided reading and meditation. And for everyone who is here joining live, welcome. I don't know how to say welcome in Italian, but that's what I mean to express. Buongiorno, and we are joined by some meditation pals, and this as well. So today we're going to be practicing some meditation together. We're going to be listening to the reading from Ajahn Sumedho. It should be quite insightful and informative. And who knows what else is going to happen. I hope everyone can hear me okay. And we'll just be waiting around for that 10-minute mark when we'll formally get started. So we give some time for people to join in. And if you're already here, taking some time to get settled, to find that comfortable position for your body. Maybe move this in a little bit more. Don't want to cut off our friend there. Okay. Oh yeah, the audio, I should also should be a little bit closer with the audio, not having the proper mic right now. And a little bit more there. Okay. Looks about fine. So hello, Isaac. Chad, I do not have a Patreon. Maybe at some time I might have one. I saw a fellow monastic has one. So maybe at some point I will have a Patreon, but right now I don't. I do have a PayPal, and you can support me through that if you like. But no, it's up to you. I do accept, but I do not solicit. So, Cruz, Felix, Chesh, Nikki, Keem, Sigan, Jacob, Nikki, Chad, Isaac, Wendy, and Peter. Great. Lots of people joining. Community is so inspiring. So I'm thankful for everyone who's here. Anything to share or to say or to ask before we get started? Don't be shy. We do have about another 5 minutes before we officially begin. This here. All right, Chad. That's very kind. So we couldn't say for sure, but usually it's about an hour. If you can make an hour commitment, that's about right for the meditation and the reading. Today, like it says in the description, we'll be getting started with a reading, and then we'll move into a guided meditation together. And Chad, if you want to let me know what area that you're living in, I can also look in that area and see if there's some temples that I'm familiar with, and could try and help you connect with them. These are nice plushies, for sure. I was kind of having an inner struggle, an inner debate before before I went live if I was going to have the big bear sitting next to me. As you can see, this big bear is here. So we'll see. We'll see in the future if that bear at some point takes the Dharma seat next to me. But for now, the bear's going to sit on the floor. But we'll see in the future what happens. Hey, Anna. Hope you're doing all right. It's a good bear for sure. Jacob, I'm eating Italian food. I'm eating the food that they prepare at the temple here. Last week I was eating Chinese food. A couple weeks before that I was eating Sri Lankan food. So it's just all about where I am. But I have made the decision to be a vegetarian. Now, if someone offers me something that's not vegetarian without any expression of preference on my side, then I will accept it. I'm not going to be taking umbrage with someone who gives me unsolicited donation if it does have meat. But I am a vegetarian otherwise. So just another 2 minutes before we formally, officially get started. Hey there, Guerdo. Guerdo, welcome. Hello to everyone who is here. Yes, thumbnails, very important. But I tend to think that I do want to invite people. You know, I do want to bring people in and encourage them to stay at least for a moment to see if they're really willing or able to try it out. But also there's not so much that you can do. You know, the thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. This is an invitation to listen deeply from the heart, from the body. It's an invitation to show up. And either you want to show up or you don't. There's no getting around that. There's no place for passivity or silliness, sure, but you know, this is live. This is meant to be engaged. Where my intention is to bring up this feeling of, you know, if everyone was here together, if we were meeting together in a meditation center, and we were really showing up, and we were really next to each other, and really practicing together. That is that's the feeling that we're going for. And so, if someone doesn't want to participate in that, they're not going to be able to. So, Stephen, so this book is, well, it says it right here. This book is the first of 5 volumes created to honor the life and work of Ajahn Sumedho on his 80th birthday. And it's from Amaravati Publications. I believe that you can reach out to Amaravati directly, and you can get sent a free copy of this book, I believe. But anyway, this book is just chock full of wisdom, and it's a 5-volume series. And this is volume 1. Peace is a simple step. All right. So let's take that simple step. Let's get in the movement, in the motion of peace. So, welcome everyone to this community event, this live group guided reading followed by meditation. I am Bhante Warapanyo, your host, This is the Monk Life community space. Let's start our practice together by first making sure that we're comfortable. So we may not be perfectly comfortable, but finding a somewhat comfortable position to sit in or lay in or stand in, it's up to you, but taking a moment to find the body. We can oftentimes forget the body, so now take a moment to find the body and also find a comfortable, suitable space for the body to sit in, to be in. And as we adjust, as we find that position, that space, bringing our attention onto the breath. As we breathe in, filling the body with our awareness, with our attention. As we breathe out, settling, letting go, really establishing ourselves in this space, in this body, at this moment. Breathing in, gathering our attention and our awareness, and as we breathe out, letting go, relaxing, settling into the body. And as we breathe in this way, setting an intention. Why are you here? Why do you want to practice? Maybe we want to learn a little bit about Buddhism. Maybe we're here as a way to take care of ourselves. Maybe we don't have an intention, but it just feels good to be here right now. So whatever it is for you, really connect with that. Pin that intention, pin that sincerity on the heart of your mind. So it's not loosey-goosey that we're here with the body right now. It's not loosey-goosey that we want to listen, that we want to develop our wisdom. And as we set that intention, being with the breath, more and more bringing the mind to the body. Tuning into the spaciousness of our mind. Just breathing. Just showing up right now. Just seeing, just hearing, simply noticing our moment-to-moment experience. No judgments, no expectations, simply being here with a wide open heart and a sincere intention to listen deeply and to be with this community, and ourselves right here, right now. So, just a bit of settling meditation for us to get started with. And as we listen to this reading from Ajahn Sumedho, we can have a bit of humbleness and appreciation that Ajahn Sumedho is a long time meditation practitioner and also a Buddhist monk, but rather than trying to dissect or figure out what's being said here, the practice is to really listen from the heart and to bring our meditation mind, so being with the breath, being aware, feeling the body, and listening to these teachings from that place, not from the intellect, not from the discursive mind, but to really listen deeply. So here we are, gentle and sincere, walking the path with diligence, facilitated by Ajahn Sumedho. In our practice, we need to learn what right effort is, in contrast to just willpower. In Thailand, the attitude is always to sleep little, speak little, eat little. This has quite a strong influence on one's mind. It sets in motion the idea of pushing and striving, but it also tends to create a kind of mental state that is very suppressive. One isn't really aware of what one is doing. Many people become so tired and exhausted that their reflective capacities no longer operate. In a group, there's always a lot of pressure to conform and keep up. People don't always notice and observe the effect of these things. At the Buddhist monastery Amaravati, I once gave a very strict retreat, getting up at 3 in the morning, dismissing everyone at 11 at night, and so forth. The results of that retreat were not very good, actually. Some of the people were very diligent at doing all that, but others just couldn't keep up with it. So then I considered, what are we in this for anyway? What is the purpose of what we're doing? A lot of illness can come from that suppressive tendency, just to hold everything down and drive oneself, or perhaps to try to keep up with the very strong and healthy people. One might consider that weakness, but in England, I have found it much more helpful not to emphasize trying to become a super diligent kind of practitioner, or to think that strictness is the way that everything should be. The mind tends to be very much impressed by things like asceticism and the use of willpower. But I remember that in my early years, when I was a novice monk, I had the most insight when I had enough rest and my mind and body were relaxed. I had some powerful insights when I wasn't just pushing and striving against sleepiness or only trying to keep up with others. In the Western world, the people who commit themselves to the monastic life are usually already quite determined in their own way. So one is not carrying a lot of dead weight. having to teach monks who are just following a tradition as a part of a cultural pattern. This is, of course, a lovely thing, to have people in whom one can have confidence, so that they can begin to trust and motivate themselves. We need to learn how to motivate ourselves, rather than depend on someone else to drive and push us. I notice when we're put in teaching or leadership positions, we tend to feel a sense of insecurity. So often we become almost militaristic. This is quite common. I've seen it in England with monks who are in the position of being an abbot for the first time. Abbot is like this head of the temple, the head monk, the king of the temple. I notice when we're put in teaching or leadership positions, we tend to feel a sense of insecurity. So often we become almost militaristic. This is quite common. I've seen it in England with monks who are in the position of being the head of the temple for the first time. It's almost like sitting over people and forcing them to conform. But when contemplated, the results are not terribly impressive. The beauty of the holy life doesn't lie in driving people. Instead, we encourage people to rise up to things and learn how to put effort into what they are doing. We learn from experience what seems to be most useful, helpful, and of value. There is no need to make an absolute position that one has to do things a certain way. You can find quite a distinction with this from other major religions where there's an absolute right and there's an absolute wrong. But in skillfulness, it's more finding at this moment how we can show up sincerely. How at this moment we can take care of ourselves as best we can, regardless of right or wrong. So there is no need to make an absolute position that one has to do things a certain way. The whole purpose of contemplation and reflection is to observe the results of what we do. I think we are quite used to employing willpower alone as a compulsive and obsessive tendency of the mind. We hold things back, we force and drive ourselves. Notice that the Western mentality always has the idea we should be doing or developing something. It's very hard for us to just sit around and not feel guilty about it. There's always this compulsion to do something more, to get better or to get rid of some flaw, weakness, or bad habit. What I'm saying is for reflection. It's not meant to do anything other than encourage us all to look at what's compelling us to do what we're doing. So as we begin to look at our motivations, what willpower is, we become aware of the compulsive tendencies of our mind. So in Buddhist practice, in meditation, rather than adopting some belief system, rather than practicing the absolutely right method, we are getting into a practice of reflection. We are turning inward and noticing. What's it like at this moment? What kind of thoughts, experiences, habits are coming up? What are we noticing? What are we aware of? It is a reflective quality of mind. And to step into that reflective quality of mind, we actually have to step away from this doing, getting, progress, failure. We have to be willing to put all that aside and simply to look, to notice, to be with. And the breath is very supportive in allowing us to make those initial steps, those first steps into reflection, into being here and noticing the mind, rather than adding on to it or trying to get rid of some aspect of it. So in meditation, we begin to look at our motivations, what willpower is. We begin to become aware of the compulsive tendencies of our mind, not to fix them, not to get rid of them, not to change them, but we begin to become aware of those tendencies. We begin to become aware of physical sensations. We begin to become aware of our reactivity towards a little bit of pain, or our reactivity to a little bit of boredom. In a community, there tends to be a lot of intimidation. There are always those who sit straighter and are always on time, those who never nod and always eat little, those we call the diligent ones. And then there is always somebody in the community who can't do any of it very well, ranging from those who try desperately to conform and live up to an image to those who just try to do the best they can. There is a tendency to look at somebody else and copy, idealize and emulate. Then there are feelings of guilt, remorse, or inferiority regarding the fact that we might not be able to live up to what we think the best ones can do. All this is to be witnessed and observed. Community life can be just mass conformity, or it can be a very skillful way of understanding the nature of things. Nobody wants to live in a community for very long under a lot of pressure, feeling intimidated and put upon by others so that life becomes very dull or despairing. What appealed to me about the life of a monk was that it wasn't asceticism, but rather a reasonable way to live a life. Personally, I used to like to do ascetic practices, kind of renunciation practices, more intensive kind of letting go practices. Personally, I used to like to do ascetic practices and be very strict. But I realized that one can only do those things for periods of time, not indefinitely. I didn't really want to have to do all that as a way of life, or feel obliged always to operate on that particular level. I felt that the Buddha had meant monastic life to be something simple and easy, relaxed and peaceful, rather than harsh and ascetic. This is a common trap that people fall into with their meditation, where they're approaching it that to really do meditation, to really get into it, to really practice, is to be kind of harsh and ascetic and difficult. And when we sit meditation, we're powering through, we're fighting through, we're going to push ourselves to enlightenment. But rather, I would say that meditation is meant to be something simple and easy, relaxed and peaceful. And I believe Thich Nhat Hanh says that if we're sitting there in meditation trying to force ourselves to follow the method, forcing ourselves to sit there and grit our teeth through it, we're not really meditating. But rather that meditation is this way of finding peace, finding joy, finding the ease and calm that exists in simplicity. And so our meditation practice actually is to enjoy, is to be happy, is to find this kind of satisfaction with just having a body, just breathing. All of our senses, all of our thoughts, our total experience, to just be with it, not adding on or trying to get rid of, and to find in that the sense of joy, happiness, and peace. And that is real meditation, and that is our job in meditation. To enjoy it, to really find peace in it. Yeah, all those other things are there, the past and the future, and the struggle to get better, and the fear about getting worse, and all these material concerns and all that. Sure, it's a big part of life. But in that meditation, we are tuning into this present that is not defined by the past and future. we're tuning into this spacious, open-hearted, sincere awareness of what's coming up and what's going away, and that awareness itself. So meditation in that way is a refuge. It's a home that we can always rely on, that we can always come back to. It's not meant to be a struggle or a fight, something that helps us get rid of something, or something that helps us get something. In meditation, we're just being here. Doesn't matter what someone else thinks about it. Doesn't matter what we think about it. Past, future, context. It's just finding peace and being here. Finding the joy in total presence, and that we have a capacity to do that. We don't have to be a holy person. We don't have to meditate for 10 hours a day. Right now, we can be at peace. So Ajahn Sumedho here says, I felt that the Buddha had meant the spiritual life to be something simple and easy, relaxed and peaceful, rather than harsh and ascetic. In England, we've had to take care of sick people. Some monks have very poor health, various back problems, knee problems, and endless ailments calling for consideration as to how to work through them. Not only by the monks with their particular health problems themselves, but also by the community as a whole. Do we want just a community of healthy and tough young people? Or can a community perhaps also include and open up to a wider range of ages, abilities, and levels of health? I know that for a lot of young people, it's very important to prove they are tough and can really practice meditation, especially in the monastic circles, people who really get into the meditation lifestyle. This is also to be recognized, that we might be motivated by the masculine tendencies and the needs for rites of passage in the patriarchal world. Nevertheless, it is good to get to know our limits. What is it like to go without sleep or food? If we want to test ourselves, if we want to work diligently, that's fair enough. It's good practice, actually. But we each have to know our limits. Some of us have to learn how to operate within the limits of poor health, having little physical reserve and a weak constitution. This also goes for mental health. Not all of us are ready to dive into intensive meditation practices. Not all of us are ready to confront and dissolve the self and attend meditation retreats where we barely sleep. Not all of us are ready to meditate for 4 hours a day or to have a morning and evening meditation. And that's okay. We don't have to practice like that. And in fact, we shouldn't practice like that. Our meditation is meant to be this space where, with our wisdom, with our understanding and our knowledge of our capabilities, we work to show up for ourselves and to take care. And it's a process and it's ongoing, but don't worry about thinking you should practice more, or you didn't do enough, or, oh, you're not as mentally robust or emotionally robust as other people. That's fine, or physically as robust. It's not a problem. We can still bring this practice of contemplation, of inner reflection, of showing up for ourselves every single day. We can make it a part of our life. Even if we have mental health struggles, if we have days that are tough, this path is the path of taking care of ourselves, not fixing ourselves, not getting rid of something or getting something, but this path of showing up and taking care. Gentle and sincere, wholeheartedly compassionate, and also simple. So don't overcomplicate it, and don't stress yourself out about it. So we each have to know our limits. Some of us have to learn how to operate within the limits of poor health, having little physical reserve and a weak constitution. We need to apply mindfulness and wisdom when the body is not healthy and needs quite frequent rest or certain kinds of nourishment. One of the monks had so much tension all the time that he's been extremely constipated for most of his monastic life. So Ajahn Sumedho has been a monk for decades and decades, so he's speaking here about one of the other monks that he lived with quite a while, I suppose. So one of the monks had so much tension all the time that he's been extremely constipated for most of his monastic life. These constipation problems arise because of the tension of driving and willing oneself. Learning how to practice is finding a balance, finding out when to take it easy and when to tighten things up. This is something each one of us has to really observe, in ourselves and in the community. We can be very idealistic, thinking that a good practitioner or a good monk, what they should be like, wearing rag robes, only eating what is offered, able to live in whatever place is given, surviving with just fermented urine for medicine, taking their ideals from basic reflections, the ideal of not sleeping very much, not eating very much, not speaking very much. And to various degrees and levels, we have those ideals about ourselves and what it means for us to be a good spiritual practitioner. You know, what it means for us to walk the path. We have these ideals. And for some of us, they do relate to drinking fermented urine or using fermented urine as medicine. But if we attach to those ideals without understanding what we're doing, the result is that we lose our sense of humor and become very tense. All kinds of unpleasant results can occur. Maybe we can keep up this tension for a while, but then we find ourselves falling apart. When the supportive conditions for such a practice aren't there, we lose our momentum. By observing this, we can begin to see how to relax, how to apply more effort, and how to let go, simply by observing. We learn when to push ourselves and create energy, but without adopting or holding onto an idealistic position of how things should be permanently. Good practice is being strict all the time. If we believe so firmly in our high ideals, we may quite suddenly feel despair. Many people leave because they cannot stand the idea of living in that way while always feeling a sense of failure with regard to it. So many people stop their meditation, move away from the path, stop taking care of themselves because they've created this idealized, romanticized idea of what it means to meditate, of what it means to take care of ourselves. This idea of good practice is being strict all the time, or being healthy is eating healthy food all the time. And then we can't meet that romanticized, idealized expectation, and so we fall off of the whole path. If we believe so firmly in our high ideals, we might quite suddenly feel despair. Many people leave the path because they cannot stand the idea of living in that way while always feeling a sense of failure with regard to it. When I talk about reflection, I mean just looking at what's driving us, what kind of ideals we have. It's not that we shouldn't have ideals, but what are our expectations? And what are the results of our life so far? And those results are here and now. So by observing here and now, we are finding out what are our expectations and what are the results of our life so far. What are we attached to and holding on to? What are the causes and results of any action? This is a means of self-knowledge, of looking into the way that things are. We don't judge that we shouldn't be strict or push ourselves. I'm not taking a position for or against those things, but I emphasize the need to recognize what we are actually doing and its result. Practice is all about what we're actually doing. We're not just trying to live up to an ideal of what a good monk should be, but rather we are observing the results of what we're doing. What would good results be? Well, if we're still suffering and full of anxiety, doubt, stress, fear, and dullness, caught in restlessness, jealousy, envy, anger, greed, and all that, then we're obviously not doing something quite right. Maybe we're trying to purify ourselves, getting rid of our defilements, making ourselves into something else and trying to annihilate the bad habits. Maybe we want to prove ourselves or win approval from others. Or maybe we're trying to be what we think we should be. But anything that comes from self-view will always take us to some kind of negative result and despair. They go hand in hand. If we have a sense of self, we'll also have disillusionment and a sense of despair. So that sense of self is clinging, attachment, that idealized view of ourselves, that idealized view of the world, that experience of a self where we want to get something, we want to get rid of something, we want approval, we want happiness, we want, and we don't want. As we practice meditation, we are bringing our mind to the breath. We are bringing our focus and our awareness to the way that things are right now. Noticing, realizing, learning about ourselves without identifying with those experiences. So we feel pain, we notice it. We be with it. Maybe we even adjust our position. We feel anxiety. We feel thoughts. And we rely on our awareness rather than those things, those experiences, coming back again and again and again to being aware. So let's take a moment to perhaps adjust our position, to get comfortable. Letting that reading, those teachings sink in. Not necessarily to understand it on an intellectual level, but to really feel this quality of mind that has come up from that deep listening. And as we make sure that we are in a somewhat comfortable position, we can begin to breathe, to put our attention onto the breath. Noticing that the breath is already happening. We don't need to put forth any kind of effort or struggle to breathe. The breath is happening. Our attention, our awareness, noticing the breath. Noticing this experience of having a body. As we practice meditation together, taking as our method, our approach, being, breathing, noticing. If at any time you become uncomfortable, confused, unsure of the practice, simply place your focus back onto the breath. Follow the breath as if it were something very interesting, something very important. If you get caught up in thinking, ideas, stories, notice that you're caught up in thinking and return back to focusing on the breath. Coming in and going out. And through this practice of focusing on the breath, we may find that our mind settles, that our awareness is naturally there, that the breath is naturally there. At that point, there's no need for effort, no need for method. Simply being with the body, being with the breath, being aware. Breathing and noticing. Observing. Becoming distracted and then returning back to the breath. No struggle, no confusion, barely any effort. Breathing, noticing. That's it. Breathing and noticing. Attentive, bright, aware. Don't worry about having that relaxed, peaceful meditation experience. Breathing and being aware, observing thoughts, physical sensations, observing our reactivity. Breathing and having a body, noticing, breathing. experiencing directly pain, distraction, and our ability to be aware of pain, to be aware of thoughts and stories, but we don't need to rely on them. We don't need to identify with those thoughts, physical sensations. We can simply notice them and return back to our practice of being aware, observing, breathing. Breathing and being aware. Identifying not with the content of our thoughts or our reactivity to sensations, but rather coming back to realizing again and again this awareness quality, this nature of our mind to be spacious and aware. Experiencing directly that awareness, that noticing, which is at the very heart of our being, is not characterized, is not caught up in the content of our thoughts. It is not caught up in our reactivity. That awareness quality, that spaciousness of the mind, which is at the very heart of our moment-to-moment life, does not depend upon conditions, does not depend upon the true or false story, does not depend upon right or wrong. So at this moment, and at any moment, rather than feeling totally forced and trapped in this way of identifying with stories, thoughts, and reactivity, we can realize, we can return back to the breath and return and rely on being aware, our awareness nature, our peace nature that is right here and right now. At any point, if we do get caught up, confused, we find ourselves in reactivity, in too much tightness, in too much relaxation, too much sleepiness. Returning back to the breath, bringing the thinking mind home to the body and establishing ourselves in this awareness nature, in this quality of being aware right here, right now. Taking a deep, conscious breath, gathering up our sincerity, our heart, our presence, our full embodiment right now. Breathing in, breathing out, with all the sincerity that we can muster, with all the presence of our mind, repeating after me as we practice Metta, as we practice planting the seeds of loving kindness towards ourselves, bringing up this energy of tenderness, gentleness, compassion, patience. Being with the breath, our body, and this awareness nature. Putting all of our heart and our sincerity into these words. Repeating after me. May all beings live in security and in peace. Beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in perfect tranquility. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one, out of anger or ill will, wish anyone any harm. Just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her own life, may I cultivate boundless love to offer to all living beings in the entire cosmos. Let this boundless love pervade the whole universe. Above, below, and across. This love will know no barriers. This love will know no obstacles. Our heart will be absolutely free from hatred and greed. Whether standing or walking, sitting or laying, as long as we are awake, may we maintain this mindfulness of loving kindness in our hearts. So at this point, no need to repeat after me, but just listen deeply. And this will be the wrapping up of our group meditation together. This is the noblest way of living, free from wrong views, greed, and sensual desires, living in beauty and realizing perfect understanding. Those who practice this boundless love will certainly transcend all suffering. Etana Satya Vajina Soti Te Hotu Sabada. By the firm determination of this truth, may you, may I, may all beings ever be well. And you can join me in chanting sadhu if you like, as we give ourselves a pat on the back and share this practice with all beings. Sadhu. Sadhu. So, moment to moment, may we sweep away our fears, our attachments, our confusions. May we sweep away our suffering with this boundless love, with this moment-to-moment mindfulness of our awareness, nature, our moment-to-moment beating heart. May we all attain peace and freedom. May we all attain liberation, moment to moment. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining, for being a part of this community. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, being with you in a real sense tomorrow at 8 p.m. Rome time. All right? Take care, everybody. Be gentle going about, moving out of your meditation practice. And don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that you need or want to talk. You're welcome to reach out either to me directly or over in our community space on Discord. All right? Take care, everybody. And let's practice together again soon. And we'll play a little bit of lovely sound as we wrap up here, as we close out. Maybe we will.